I wonder if I may comment on that, Helen. My name is Ian McPherson. I'm a South Lakeland District Councillor, and I'm also the representative of South Lakeland on the partnership itself, which is the body that was set up to advise what are called the decision-making bodies, which is Allerdale, Copeland and Cumbria County Council. The partnership itself has been meeting now for about 3 years and is almost at the point where it will be formulating the advice that it will be giving to the decision-making bodies. And our next formal meeting is on the 22nd of May, when we will be considering the responses to the county-wide consultation. I will say straight away that South Lakeland led the way in actually setting out in its response to the consultation opposition to the matter proceeding to the next stage. So far we are the only district council to have done that, and I will say that I think the extent of the consultation response surprised very much all members of the partnership, who I think felt they were going to get a clear run into phase 4. Once it goes to phase 4, despite undertakings by the government that it will be possible to pull out at any stage, my feeling is, and the feeling of most people who studied this, is that once it goes to stage 4, it would be very, very difficult, if not impossible, to pull out. So this is a really crucial point of the proceedings. There will be a public meeting on the 22nd of May, when the partnership will start drafting its advice to the decision-making bodies. That advice will then go through to Allerdale, Copeland and Cumbria, each of whom will make their own political decisions and probably will either decide yes or no by September or October of this year. I have to say that until relatively recently I have not been at all optimistic about the way in which the process was going. But there's been one very considerable significant factor in the last couple of weeks which has made me think that maybe we can stop it going on to the next stage. And that is that most of the parish councils in and around the area where the repository is likely to be, plus parish councils throughout Cumbria, have come out very strongly against this happening. And a couple of weeks ago, CALC, the Cumbrian Association of Local Councils, changed what had been their previously fairly neutral position into absolute opposition to the matter going further. And in the absence of a referendum, which I've personally been calling for, in the absence of a referendum, I think that this is the closest you're going to get to grassroots opposition to going on to the next stage. I have to say, I think, let's not mess about, we're talking about bribes here of amazing sums of money. And this is a political issue as much as a geological one and a social one. I don't want to say much more, but what I will say is that although the consultation process has now closed, it is still absolutely necessary that everyone continues to make their views known, both to their own town council. And I'm sorry to say that Kendal Town Council did not think fit to come out in opposition in the same way that Cockermouth did and hopefully Keswick will. But you've always got your town councillors to speak to about that. And I think that there are many ways in which yourselves and local people can still make their views very clearly known and express their opposition in the very strongest terms to the matter proceeding to the next stage. Thank you.
What is the next stage? Sorry.
The next stage is that on the 22nd of May, the partnership, which has been meeting for about 3 years now, will start to formulate its advice to the decision-making bodies on whether or not the matter should proceed to phase 4.
And what is phase 4? Sorry.
Phase 4 is shown on the diagram which Helen showed earlier, which is to proceed to a desk-based and then borehole study of the geological suitability of West Cumbria for a repository of this kind.
So looking at the whole of West Cumbria.
Well, excluding those sites which have been shown by BGS not to be suitable, but looking at the rest of the county, but particularly the west coast. Once the partnership has decided upon what that advice should be, the advice will then go to each of the 3 participating councils, the decision-making bodies, Allerdale, Copeland and Cumbria County Council, and they, each of them in turn, will make the decision. The County Council, however, is the key, because even if Allerdale and Copeland say they want to go ahead, the County Council says no, it won't. If Allerdale says yes, and Copeland says no, it could still go ahead if the County Council supported a repository in Allerdale district. And the advice is likely to go to the decision-making bodies, I would think probably around the end of summer this year. And the decision would probably be made by each of the individual councils, certainly by the end of the year. That's why it's so important to keep the pressure on, now more on a political level, with all the evidence of the geology that we've heard, keep the pressure on a political level to make sure that it does not go to phase 4. Once it does, it's going to be very, very difficult to reverse the process.
Could you say something more about that meeting on the 22nd, please? Did you say it was a public meeting?
It is a public meeting, yes. And although the partnership itself comprises the individual councils, it comprises various quangos, it comprises organisations like the National Farmers Union and the various trade unions that operate in the area. At a public meeting, it also has pressure groups like Greenpeace, Friends of the Earth, but it also, and this is the other big snack, it also has people from the different nuclear organisations, and it also has high-level civil servants. You can't actually see the strings being pulled, but they are certainly there. And the more people who can go along to the public meetings and actually make their views known, because it's quite a transparent process on the surface, and people can go along and actually ask to speak at the public meeting itself. The meetings usually go on for the whole of the day, and they are broadcast to different countries throughout the world, including, interestingly, Japan at the moment. And I would suggest that anyone who wants to find out the details of the public meeting goes on to the Managing Radioactive Waste Safely website, which contains all the details, and it also contains details of the responses to the latest consultation.
Sorry to come back again. In terms of reference for the process that's going on at the moment, does this include the possibility of surface disposal, surface?
No, the current process is looking at deep disposal, basically. So you're at the decision-making, the point, phase 4 that the gentleman was talking about, is what I call the decision to participate. So it's when the decision-making bodies, the councils, take a formal decision about the siting of a deep nuclear waste repository. And I should have made clear that that decision at the moment would be based on that BGS map, which does rule out some sites as unsuitable, but it doesn't rule out the site that the Nirex Inquiry ruled out. So it's including a lot of West Cumbria, which the experts at that time and the Cumbria County Council's experts at that time said were geologically unsuitable.